first from St Leonard's-on-Sea, Mace.
Kicking things off at number 100, we have Mace. Combining a plain but effective lifting arm and a less competitive but nevertheless fun flail spinner, Mace quietly established itself as one of the most successful contestants of the early days of the show. Starting with a strong heat run which saw them beat George Francis at his own game, setting up what could have been one of the great rivalries of Robot Wars, Mace tied with Panic Attack in the semi-finals gauntlet and ultimately lost out in the show's only ever race-off. For want of 10 centimetres, Series 2 could have had a very different champion.
And Mace is coming back ever so slowly! Mace now pushed away by the Sentinel, teetering, tottering and gone! And Panic Attack is through!
Mace returned for an even more impressive run in Series 3. Indeed, it was the only Series 2 semi-finalist to improve upon its performance, felling future legends such as Stinger, Suicidal Tendencies and Big Brother before finally losing out after a valiant struggle to the flag bearer of the new breed of flippers, their former foe Chaos 2. Despite this success, Mace struggles to distinguish itself. An unattractive boxy look, the relatively low profile of Series 2 among fans, and most importantly its overshadowing by the team's next spot Gemini, leaves Mace seeming somehow diminished. Nevertheless, its record is strong enough for it to claim a place in the top 100.
Time ticking down! Oh, and can he avoid the pit of oblivion? Heave-ho from Mace 2! The great power! Dismisses Wheelie Wacko, can he get out of there? No! Doomed in success for Shane Howard and Brian Fountain. They march on.
From County Durham and Lewisham, Robogeddon.
At number 99, we have Robogeddon. Do you recognise it? Or perhaps you'll be more familiar with its final form. The Ryle family probably entered Robot Wars with the same aspirations as many a Roboteer. They put together a fast, functional machine that in another timeline could have reached the success of a Judge Shred, or a Weldor, or a Razorblade. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately for Robogeddon, its first round opponent was a little known newcomer by the name of Hypnodisc. Robogeddon's strong start sadly never made it to screen, but the Ryles can take solace in the fact that the shredding that followed made its only fight one of the most famous of Series 3 and perhaps in all of Robot Wars history.
Hypnodisc spins and comes in on the attack. Oh, goodness me! Poor old Robogeddon crumpled!
William Ryle's helpless laugh in the face of such violence served as a warning for so many who would follow, though few would fully replace Robogeddon on Hypnodisc's highlight reel. Robogeddon never got the chance to make a name for itself on its merits, but a hypothetical second round placing would have doomed Robogeddon to obscurity, whereas here it lives on in our memory.
Oh, Hypnodisc, this is the most complete destruction I think we've seen in Robot Wars ever. Oh, there's the CO2 canister. Oh, that was splendid.
From Bristol, Apex.
98. Apex. Sometimes to be on a list like this, all you need is a single moment. One defining moment that cements a robot as one that will struggle to leave the minds of many. Chris Stabby's Apex certainly turned some heads upon its debut in Series 9, boasting one of the biggest spinners who ever graced the Robot Wars arena. But it's a Series 10 appearance, and specifically one certain fight, that let it make its mark. Mostly in the arena walls. The Apex explosion was a moment in the reboot Robot Wars that wouldn't have felt out of place back in the old series, and if it has happened in those times, it would certainly be remembered just as much as the famous wheelie big cheese out of the arena flip. It's such a big moment that it's practically the whole reason Apex is on this list in the first place. Apex stays around the earlier stages of this list because it really didn't do that much aside from explode, but with its recognisable look and stunning exit, it more than deserves a spot here.
Whirring up to power, hits the front wedge of traction. They can't keep the thing on the ground. It becomes a whirly-bird again. Oh, everything comes apart. Oh dear, 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 and that was the result.
From Cardiff and seeded number 12, Evil.
When thinking of the most widely seen episode of Robot Wars on this channel, you would probably assume the semi-finals of Series 3 or 4, or perhaps the Series 5 or 6 Grand Finals. You would be wrong. For reasons unknown, Evil Weevil's Series 3 heat has clocked in at over 400,000 views on NJGW's channel. Over 40 times the views that the significantly better Panic Attack and Scattered Revenge heats that broadcast on either side got. Perhaps there's some bot conspiracy out there, but without proof we have to assume that its successful heat run is one of the most widely seen in the whole show. Evil Weevil was created as a younger offshoot of Panic Attack, with captain and creator Kevin Pritchard having appeared on the Series 2 Champions team. It had its own success in a Series semi-final appearance, and took home a trophy for winning the Series 3 Robotic Soccer, though it was the only one of the 4 finalists to not score a goal in the entire tournament.
It's come back into free play. Chance for Evil Weevil. Couldn't take advantage though. Slow to react. You're going the wrong way. That's it. Turn back. There's the goal.
Evil Weevil's Series 4 iteration never got to back up the success of the Series 3 model, or do much of anything really, and eventually Kevin Pritchard would return to the Panic Attack Bowl for Series 7, but Evil Weevil exists as a unique project, and its legacy and mileage is enough to get onto our list.
Evil Weevil, crowned champions, robotic soccer kings. Well done, Kevin Pritchard, Mike Walsh, and Andrew Davis.
From Seaton in Devon, Chronic the Wedgehog.
When thinking about what makes a robot iconic, it's hard not to think about memorability, and that's exactly where Chronic the Wedgehog fits in. Sure, it was by no means a very successful robot, only reaching 1 heat final in 4 attempts, but it has managed to remain in the heads of many Robot Wars fans over the years. This is partly due to its vibrant blue paint job and snarling face, but that's not all that it had to offer. It also had a lot of heart and always tried hard in battle. Its debut fight in the 4th Wars Melee saw it partly responsible for KOing the number 13 seed and former semi-finalist Gravedigger en route to the heat final. Another brilliant melee performance in the 6th Wars saw it pit the Deadly Corkscrew before KOing both Rocks and former champions Panic Attack. A clean sweep against multiple notable robots was a massive highlight for Chronic, and that's why the potential was still believed to be there for it to push on further. But alas, sadly, bad luck always came back and hit them hard. In Series 4 they lost drive on one side after giving Thermidor 2 a tough battle, and in Series 6, the series that it shone the most, it got placed against the mighty Terahertz in round 2. Even in Series 7 it couldn't catch a break, breaking down against Mighty Mouse of all robots despite being on the aggressive throughout the battle. However, it's not all doom and gloom. After Robot Wars ended, Chronic became the 2005 FRA UK Heavyweight Champions, getting revenge on Terahertz in the process. In 2010, David Lang sold Chronic to Alan and Dave Young, who would use Chronic's legacy to inspire them towards creating the reboot star, Apollo. This not only shows just how much potential Chronic did have, but it also ensures that Chronic's legacy was continued through to this day.
Thrust into the arena wall. Overturned. Oh, slam! Run away!
From Newcastle in Staffordshire, Ripper.
Number 95, Ripper. The big, bold and colourful Ripper came late to Robot Wars, its whole career taking place within the final 5 episodes of the classic series. Even despite this late and limited crusade, Ripper made a huge impact with a big low-pressure flipper, making the final heat pee without breaking a sweat. The only thing it did break was the house robots. It really shone in the Annihilator of the same series, taking out 5 robots in a single fight on its path to 2nd place. Its dominance over semi-finalist Raging Nightmare gave us cause to reflect on what might have been, but sadly Ripper would never again appear on our screens. Ripper's journey did not end with Series 7, and Captain John Findlay would improve it year after year until he became a UK champion in the 2011 live circuit. Findlay himself was such a Robot Wars fan that he even acquired the brand for his live events, but this passion had unintended consequences when the Robot Wars reboot finally came around. Despite being one of the most dominant robots of its day, Ripper was barred entry from Series 8 and 9 because of a perceived conflict of interest. Had Ripper been able to contend for the Series 8 or 9 crown, who knows where it would end up on the list, but this content we enjoyed from Ripper's early days was enough for it to jump into the top 100.
Shut as an axe blowing on the Ripper. Sir Killot's in there as well. It's all gone off. Ripper started it all, we will remember. The Finlay boys and Stephen Johnson look on.
From Bristol, Foxek.
The Robot Wars Top 100 Icons is mostly about celebrating the cherished moments of the show's past, the nostalgia and the happy moments. But with number 94, another word synonymous with Robot Wars, controversial, is more apt. Most machines came into Series 8 with a fresh slate. Nobody could be sure of improvements that veterans would undertake, or what to expect from the new machines, but Foxic was a little bit different. Just months before the reboot of Robot Wars was about to air, Foxic took part in RoboGames in America, where it faced the devilish Last Rites, and although it did lose the fight, Foxic's armour shrugged off most of what the best of the US could throw at it, and with that, Foxic went into Series 8 with promise. Unfortunately for it, this moment was largely the highest point in Foxic's career, and that was before it had even reached the TV screens, because calling what followed for Foxic a nightmare would be underplaying it. In every battle it featured in during Series 8, Foxic's list of controversy and disdain increased, limping its way through the group battles while other machines were picked off, its issues continuing into the round robin stage, and most notably featuring in a fight described by Noel Sharkey as one of the worst battles in Robot Wars history against Mr. Speed Squared. Foxic did not have a fun time on screen in Series 8. Or off it either. For most of Series 8, social media was largely full of praise for the best machines, or simply forgot about most of the cannon fodder. But Foxic and team captain Craig Danby drew an incredible amount of sustained criticism across social media, something which highlighted just how much more vulnerable many a machine or roboteer could be in the modern day online. Foxic itself could only muster one more appearance on the show, where some familiar reliability problems struck once again, but Foxic's battle record is of little relevance when considering its place in this list. With many a fan and even a casual taking note of Foxic in one way or another, Foxic stands out and made its name known. Whether it be somebody still using the fight against Last Rites to insist on Foxic still having some form of potential, whether it be somebody highlighting its part in one of the worst fights in the show's history, whether it be the reliability issues or about Craig Danby himself. There's always a talking point with Foxic, and for us, that still makes it a notable feature in the history of Robot Wars and worthy of a place on this list.
Can Mr. Speed Squared shove Foxic in? No! Good control by Foxic getting in underneath! But dear oh dear, this has been so dreary. I feel leery. 6 seconds, thank goodness. 3, 2, 1, catch and go. Judges take over.
That was terrible. That was awful.
Oh, pardon me everyone. I've got to go out and make a cup of tea. I'll be back sometime soon.
From Brighton, Tiberius.
Long before Sam Smith joined forces with Dave Moulds to build Robot Wars' most destructive machine, Carbide, he built a vertical crusher known as Tiberius. The first version of Tiberius was one of very few whose crusher was pulled down instead of pushed, and its elongated body, combined with the enormous spike it wielded, meant it was one of the most impressive looking newcomers in the field for Series 4. After an impressive first round display against former semi-finalists in Evil Weevil and a future one in Mousetrap, Tiberius had an unfortunate breakdown in round 2, which may well have been the only thing standing in its way of becoming a semi-finalist of its own in its debut series. For later series though, Tiberius had a more conventional crusher system, and it certainly achieved greater success than before. Tiberius was the only vertical crusher, other than Razor, to win any sort of UK tournament, emerging victorious in the University Challenge for Loughborough University. It was also the only other crusher to reach a heat final, and was set to go even further before M2 pulled off a comeback story. Despite it never progressing beyond the heats, Tiberius displayed enough control and power in its fights to distinguish itself from Razor and the so-called Razor clones. While Sam Smith never achieved as much success with this set of machines as he did with Carbide, Tiberius was a solid competitor in its own right, a good basis for the future, and remains the second most successful vertical crusher to ever compete on Robot Wars.
And Tiberius 3 has got to grips with M2! Oh, look at that! It's almost as if it's melting it away! That is vicious!
From Ossett in Yorkshire, yes to resistance.
Most Robot Wars fans associate this French-named but British robot with one thing, an American, shouting,
"What the fuck is that?"
Peace to Resistance, sometimes nicknamed Piece to Shit for reasons that can't possibly be my fault, made its debut in the opening episode of Series 2. Truly the perfect way to introduce new viewers to Robot Wars. Piece to Resistance was a metal box built from a microwave, powered by windshield wipers, and armed with a bent snow shovel. Its sole Robot Wars campaign was one of the most hilariously poor runs in the history of the show, with a, quote, turbocharged RAM barely making a dent in a wall of loosely stacked bricks, and none at all in a pile of empty barrels. However, for all of its faults, Pièce de Resistance can at least claim to have avoided the one-bump breakdown that so many other robots in the show suffered from. Despite the mockery it receives from all sides, Pièce de Resistance went on to become a popular meme in the Robot Wars fandom, and inspired Team Captain Colin Scott to create a featherweight successor to it in 2019, which performed much better for itself. It is safe to say that Team Death's first heavyweight machine has inspired more Robot Wars content than half the All-Stars on this list, and it did it without ever competing in a single fight. Pièce de Resistance is remembered for all the wrong reasons, but we love it all the same.
I think I saw some shit robots in Series 1, but I think Piece to Resistance has got to be the shittiest fucking robot in Robot Wars history.
From Nottingham, Ironside 3.
Closing out part 1 of the countdown is the first grand finalist on the list, Ironside 3. Entered by a team captain formerly known for robots such as Velociriptor and Mighty Mouse, Trevor Wright certainly upped his game with Ironside 3, a competent bar spinner which entered the reboot as a significant threat, helped in part by builder and driver Adam Lewis. Ironside 3 made an explosive start in Series 8 with 3 back-to-back wins and seemed well on track to make the grand final, but a single controversial loss to Pulsar put it out of the competition before even the Heat final. This sudden departure from arguably the best robot in the Heat left a lot of fans wanting more, but that's precisely what they got in Series 9. After an undefeated run in the Heat, which allowed Ironside 3 to avenge its former loss to Pulsar, the team advanced to the grand final, where they collected even more victories, including a surprise win over the up-and-coming Aftershock. This allowed Ironside 3 to claim 3rd place for Series 9, a Robot Wars title it shares with the likes of Firestorm and TR2, and yet in spite of its success, the fans who hoped for more Ironside 3 after Series 8 had fallen mysteriously silent. Ironside 3 had overturned its early exit and achieved its expectations, perhaps even exceeding them, but by then its time just seemed to have already passed, while the focus fell onto newer spinners like Aftershock, Concussion, and new champion Carbide. Consequentially, Ironside 3's planned successor was not even selected to compete in Series 10, and an entire reboot season took place without the former finalist, causing Ironside 3 to quickly fall by the wayside. As a competitor, Ironside 3 was up there with the very best, but as an icon of Robot Wars, it was never quite there.
Away from Ironside 3's bar, because Worm's armament is limited.